Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. I hope all of you out there in YouTube land are doing well. This one Virginia dude coming at you again. Um, the there seems to be a lot of news lately about Cracker Barrel. Yes, the old country restaurant. Apparently, they have a new CEO who she is wanting to take the company in a more woke direction, including DEI hires and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and they want to change the logo. They want to change the logo where they essentially are going to remove the barrel and they're going to eliminate the cracker. Old man Herschel, who was on there, the company was founded, I believe, in 1969. And I can't honestly say that I have darkened the door of a Cracker Barrel since before the China virus hit, but I probably went 2 or 3 times a year. And it used to be that they had ample food portions at a low price, fast service, friendly service, um, and they had the ambiance of the country store. You could a lot of times it was busy, especially on weekends, like for brunch. I remember when my son was little, I took him there a couple times. They had a good kids menu, and if it was busy, you could sit out in these oversized rocking chairs and you could play checkers. They had these big checkerboards on the tables. The checkers were probably about 6 inches in diameter, and you could play. I guess they were like Velcro, so they wouldn't blow in the wind. You could play checkers. They had a little country store. You could buy all kinds of tchotchke and knickknacks and puzzles and games and toys for children of all ages. It was kind of an experience. Um, but eventually the portions of the food got a little smaller, and it was good food. It wasn't spectacular, but it was good and it was consistent. They had good service, but I noticed that the portions kind of got a little smaller and the prices got a little higher. And you know, I haven't been back since the days of the China virus, but it was even back then, before that, you were starting to see shrinkflation. And some restaurants even started using plates that were slightly smaller. So it still looked like you had you know, it, if you have a big plate and the portions are smaller, you're going to be able to tell it. But if you shrink the portions a little bit and you shrink the plate accordingly, it's still going to look like a full plate. A lot of restaurants pulled those shenanigans. And as long as people continue to go there, they're going to do that. But nevertheless, with Cracker Barrel, um, you know, they're risking alienating a huge portion of their customer base. A lot of people who go to Cracker Barrel are, seasoned citizens who tend to probably be a little more on the conservative side. And, when a company says, well, we're going to do woke and DEI and all that stuff, people don't really, that's one thing to do in the corporate office, but to do that to your customers, people don't want to be preached to. They don't want to have things pushed on them. They don't like it in your face. A number of years ago, I guess it's probably been about 3 years ago, I went to a restaurant. I want to say it was TGI Fridays, but I don't remember. It was over in Richmond. And the server had all this left wing political stuff on her. I mean, rainbow flags. She had like the pink and black dyed hair. She had, the body piercings everywhere, the BLM buttons, and the, you know, this trans, all this stuff, all the left wing environmental stuff, everything on her. And she was a fantastic server. She was professional. She was polite. She couldn't have been nicer. And you have to really screw up to not get a good tip from me. I tend to over tip. I did give her a generous tip because she did a great job. And I said something to her about it. I said, listen, I said, you can wear what you want to work if your company allows it. And I said, you did an excellent job for me. I gave her a good tip in cash. I said, but you're going to get people in here who aren't as tolerant as I am. You're going to get people who are really going to be put off by that. People don't want to have that preached to in the place of business. And I said something to the manager on the way out. I said, "Hey, she was great. Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been nicer. But you're going to ruffle some feathers the wrong way." And the manager, he was kind of like, "Yeah, okay, thanks for your opinion. I'll keep that in mind." I never went back. I don't know if the place is even still there. I don't know. But generally, people don't, even if it's something I agree with. I mean, I love guns. I'm a patriot. And if I have a server walking around with, NRA buttons and Ruger and Colt, and I don't know, maybe one, keep it tasteful, but nobody likes it to be in your face. But nevertheless, Cracker Barrel is moving in a different direction. And I fear that they're a private business. They can do that if their CEO and their board of directors agrees with it. But I think they might be really shooting themselves in the foot. They might end up going the way of Ruby Tuesday and TGI Fridays. I believe Ruby Tuesday totally went bankrupt, and I have not seen a Ruby Tuesday in eons. And TGI Fridays, I don't think they're totally gone, but they closed a heck of a lot of places. Some of their places are now like a Mexican restaurant. I think another one got made into I think they made it into a Wawa gas station or something. But times, the business has changed. The pandemic caused a lot of changes. The inflation, the crazy economic conditions. But you know that the people who run, say, IHOP, um, Perkins, it used to be Perkins Pancakes, but there's Perkins Restaurant, IHOP, Steak and Shake. Some of these other ones, they're probably sitting around clapping, thinking this is a great idea. There used to be a place called Bob Evans. I think they're gone now too. I don't know if they're still around, but there was a Bob Evans, and they seem to be doing really well, like back in the '80s and '90s, and then all of a sudden you just don't see them around anymore. Now, was it because of their politics or just their business model? I don't know. But the thing about capitalism is it changes, and sometimes when you have a good thing going, don't bite the hand that feeds you. If I'm, let's say, I own let's say I wanted to have a rifle themed wedding, and I went to a baker and I said, "Hey, I want you to bake me a wedding cake that looks like an AR-15. I want little magazines around it and maybe some NRA stickers around the edge of the cake." And the guy says, "Well, I'm a progressive. I'm against guns. I don't believe in that." Or I'd be like, "Okay, no worries. Thank you, sir, for your time. I'll go find another baker who will do it because capitalism is boss." If I own a bakery and some guy comes in there and says, "I want you to bake me a cake with, two grooms on it. I want you to bake me a cake with, Save the Whales and PETA and, I don't know, a Russian flag on it." You know what? If I'm a baker, I'm going to bake him the best darn cake. I don't care if it's everything I disagree with. If a guy wanted me, provided it was nothing illegal, but or let's say a guy says, I want a cake with a, World War II stuff on it, like the Third Reich and all that. That would creep me out a little bit, but I would find a way to accommodate the guy and say, "Okay, well, here's the stuff. You can put it on there afterwards." I don't believe in that, but you know what? Capitalism is boss, and you have to make a business decision. Do you want to alienate your people? At least it's not a situation where they're trying to sue somebody out of existence. Like that guy who wouldn't bake a cake for a gay wedding. They tried to put him out of business instead of just going to another bakery. Stuff like that. Um, Sometimes politics and business don't mix well. Sometimes they do, but you've got to, I guess, the people at Cracker Barrel got to read the room. They've been doing something it's worked pretty well for them for years. They still have kept a decent customer base. Every time I drive by one, I see cars there. But if they go changing their logo and they get rid of Herschel and, they get rid of the barrel and they get rid of the cracker and they just have Cracker Barrel on the logo, which actually, without the artwork on it, just the font itself, it kind of does look more retro than the existing logo. But nevertheless, if they change what they really are, I mean, think of when Pepsi or when Coke back in 1985, when Coke went to the new Coke, so it would taste more like Pepsi. They alienated a lot of their customers. And then, of course, they came back with Coke Classic. Was that whole thing a ruse to begin with? I don't know. But marketing can be kind of funny. There's some things that seem like they're really going to work and then they don't. So this CEO, maybe she knows something that we don't, and maybe this is going to help them. I kind of doubt it. I don't see how, but you know, I guess it's going to be up to the board of directors to see if her ideas held any water. But I can't say, oh, I'm going to boycott Cracker Barrel because I haven't been to one in it's been at least 5 years. So I can't say I'm going to boycott something that I don't participate in or I haven't been there. Just like people say, oh, I'm going to boycott the NFL. Well, I haven't followed professional sports in several decades, so I can't say I'm going to boycott the NFL because they're woke, because I can't boycott something I don't do. Um, I think it's up to each person. And, if you have eaten at a Cracker Barrel recently, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of it. I just know that the last time I was there, like I said, the food was decent, but not spectacular. I think IHOP, I went to an IHOP about 6 months ago. I think I went to an IHOP and I went there for lunch, and it was pretty good. It was slow in there, but the food was very good. The server was nice. A little pricey but I mean, I didn't leave there hungry. That's for sure. The portions were big. The food was hot. IHOP doesn't have the country store experience and all that. But I think that IHOP and Steak and Shake and Perkins and maybe one of the other restaurant chains are going to be happy about this because it's going to alienate some of the customers. But, no sense crying over it. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I just think that some of these companies, like look at Bud Light, they went woke and it cost them a lot. Now they're part of InBev, which is a huge company. So they still make regular Budweiser. They make Busch. They make Natty Light. I think they make Rolling Rock, Heineken, Amstel. I think they have other lines. So if people stop buying Bud Light, they might still buy something else in the same company. But it did hurt them a little bit, the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing. So sometimes these companies jump, they want to jump on being politically correct. Sometimes it's better to just stay the course. Dance with who brung you. Don't alienate your regular customers. You should be trying to attract new customers without getting rid of the old customers. Okay, so if you get rid of your regular base to attract a new base, well, if you've got people who've been loyal to you for decades, or those new people who come to check you out, they like your stance or whatever, are they going to be loyal customers for decades? That's a chance you got to take. So I hope it works out well. And I feel sorry for the people who work for these companies when they make a bad decision, because that affects working class people. But enough about that. I hope everybody has a fantastic Friday. Peace out.